Truck Talk Media.
C10 Talk episode 219. I'm back. We're sitting down with Brandon Burrell from Burrell Images and Modified Rides podcast. Both of us just wrapped up SEMA builds 319. Here we go.
And Sunday when I rolled in at SEMA, we literally filled the rest of the trans up. Since the pull-out, I had trans fluid, but then we have the radiator trans cooler. We added the auxiliary trans cooler, so we had to add more fluid. We literally added fluid, put the sponsor logos on, and drove 3 miles to the show. That was my initial drive. I had 10 on it at SEMA. We drove up and down the road a couple times, just seat the brakes and make sure that nothing was going to fall off, driving down the road. But yeah, that 3 mile drive was probably the best 3 miles I've ever driven in my life, knowing that 2 months prior, this was a stack of parts, a bunch of bags of bolts, nothing was together, to now I'm driving this thing 3 miles to the biggest car event in the world.
Damn, son. USA1Industries.com. Your square body source. Used them for my SEMA build. I've been pimping out their dashes for so long, 10 plus years. And people would always ask me, where's the best dash pad? USA1 Industries. USA1 Industries, without a doubt. So the team over there has been so supportive to me, my build. I get on their website, their process, it's easy, it flows. I can know what parts. And sometimes, honestly, I'm not even sure what parts I need, but when I go through the website, it kind of cues my mind, and I'm like, oh yeah, I should buy that. Oh yeah, I need that. It was extremely helpful. I got 2 large shipments when I was doing the Big Sky Bonanza build, and it saved me. It really did, to know, oh yeah, I'm glad that I ordered that. So when you're going through a big build, think USA1 Industries. Great support, fast shipping. Everything came just as I needed it to. And honestly, their packaging and their labeling was great. So I would be going through packages and I'd be like, oh yeah, this is this grommet. Oh yeah, this is this hardware. So support those guys, USA1Industries.com. They are the title sponsor of C10 Talk, and we appreciate all their support. Check them out, guys. 73 to 91, you need it. They got it. They ain't got it. You don't need it.
Let me tell you what Melbourne Post is packing right here. I've got 411 posi track out back, 750 double pumper, Edelbrock intakes, scored over 30, 11-1 pop-up pistons, turbojet, 390 horsepower. We're talking some bucking muscle.
What does that do? Does that blow your mind? That just happened.
Welcome to C10 Talk, your C10 truck podcast.
And now I have a chance to be the best, maybe the best in the world.
My old man is a television repairman. Got the ultimate set of tools. I can fix it.
I said I got 50 cents in that jukebox, and all I can hear is your mouth flapping. You hear that?
Here's your host, Ronnie Wedge.
Back in the saddle again. Wow. Been a while. SEMA. I guess at the end of the day, you just got to get stuff done. I thought I'd be able to continue potting, and a lot goes on. So we're back, baby. I reached out to Brandon and said, hey, you were inspirational for me at times. I liked watching your posts, and I liked watching your progress and your build. Let's talk about our adventure. Let's talk about our journey. He was like, hell yeah, let's do it. Let's do a little pod together, and let's see what happens. So reached out to Brandon. He said, let's do it. Modified Rides podcast. So that will be episode 319, our journey, and take you guys along for the ride. A few things that are hot, shaking and baking right now. We just announced reunion stuff. Sam and I just got done doing that tonight. So check it out, Reunion Truck Show on IG. But we've got a new location. We think we can handle 1,000 vehicles. Why do I say vehicles? Well, because it's not just going to be trucks now. So we're opening it up. When you think high school parking lot, is there anything better? So your old Chevs, some Fords, some air-cooled V-dubs, bring it. Let's see what you got. Of course, the majority of what we have there is going to be trucks. It doesn't just have to be Chev, GM. It can be Ford. It can be Dodge. And I believe looking at other stuff is cool. So I encourage you to bring if you have anything else, or you've got some friends, some buddies who aren't as smart as you and I, and know that, Chev and GM is where it's at. But I like an old OBS Ford, a bump side, a dent side. Let's bring them out and have a good time. I feel like my soapbox on that is, I've said it a million times, is I like a 5'2" meat butt blonde. I like a 5'2" meat butt blonde, but I like to look at a redhead every now and then too. So when you look at other trucks, cars, builds, just like SEMA, just like Triple Crown, and these other shows, I think the variety is good, and I think it pays respect to some of those builders. So there's a lot of really cool stuff out there, and I think it's cool. So that's what we're gonna have for Reunion 26. It's gonna be March 27th pre-show Friday, and then the show 28th in Mesa, Arizona at Sloan Park area, and that's where the Chicago Cubs have their spring training. So a lot going on. We don't have coupon codes for the hotel yet, or the hotels, but we're going to do pre-registration January 1st through the 31st. So if you do that, you get a little bit of a discount. And then obviously February 1st up until we're sold out will be not pre-registration price. So $29.95 for pre-reg, $39.95 for anything February 1st through the show, or whenever we sell out, or whatever happens first. So Thanksgiving Eve tonight. Back in the old days, it was fun to go out and party, but I want to get this out. Brandon already probably got it out on Monday. I'm just behind, and just seems to be how it goes for me lately. So happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Hopefully you're surrounded by friends and family and a lot of good food and maybe some football. Back from SEMA, the Bonanza Blazer was a hit. I can't thank everybody enough. I think I'll have a string of pods that talks about the journey, the Blazer, the build. So I don't want to bore you with all the details, but I feel like it was an absolute hit. I'm here 3 weeks later, and we got it done, which is first and foremost. That's why your pod content has suffered. We showed up, we kicked ass. We went to Dino's, we showed up, we kicked ass. We went to Good Guys, we showed up, and we kicked ass. So all in all, very happy for myself, my team, my support group, my build partners, and the people that we use. So I'll leave it at that. CK Magazine, I just talked to Scott Mason. Scott was 50% of the mag, and now he is taking, I think, essentially sole ownership. I think he's got some investor or investors. I don't know the details yet. We will have Scott. He said give him some time, and he's probably got to get everything straightened out. But we will have Scott Mason on, so some changes there with CK Truck Magazine. What else do I have? A lot of Black Friday stuff. So, you've got so many great companies out there. They're all trying to keep you parted up and parted in, and they've got bills to pay too. So they're giving you 10, 15, 20+% off, and we want to support them. So the best way I would say is, if you hear me giving an ad, I think UP's got 20% off, which is huge. So they've got that. And then our new title is going to be USA One Industries. They were a big proponent and just a positive for me with my build. So USA One Industries, so for all you square body 73 to 91, and they've got, I believe, a 10% going right now. So USA One Industries is our title for C10 Talk right now, and they were awesome. So I'm trying to think who else. I think PSI's got something. And then you may recall that I'm selling PRP, which is precision replacement parts. So we're going to do a 15%, and then I don't know the percent, but I'm doing $289 on the vents. They were, I think I was doing them at like $274 or something like that, but then their prices went up in September. So $289 plus shipping and handling. Left or right, you have to tell me 73 to 80, or you have to tell me 81 to 91. and then you have to say clear or green tinted. Not that many people are doing green tinted, but you know what? If you like the tint or the soft ray, then we've got that as well. We'll get them shipped out to you. So those are going to be $289 plus shipping and handling and tax and stuff like that. But I'll get those out to you. And then I'm doing 15%, and I'll do it for a week on the PRP stuff. So it's not like I'm breaking the bank on that stuff, to be honest with you. It's not like their margins are absolutely huge. But I just feel like that was one of those things where I like their product, and I wanted to make sure that I had it available and push it out for you guys. So you can get on bigskyclassics.com, and then that'll just say, hey, this is what I have, and then I'll reach out to you and tell you the prices because they've changed. I don't have the time to put the website together yet. I will get it together, but if you go to www.bigskyclassic.com or classics, I believe, then that'll get you squared away, and you can shoot me an email, and I'll shoot you one back and say, here's the pricing. So your wing windows will be $289, and then 15% off any other packages. They've got full packages. They've got belt molding. You've got windshield front and rear, inner door packages, everything. And we'll cut you a little break on that. So thanks for the support. Again, most important thing is you, your friends, your family, your trucks, your food, your family, and Thanksgiving. So happy to be back behind the mic. Didn't do a lot of editing on this pod. I believe the video is on Brandon's YouTube. Of course, I'll try to get it up on YouTube for Truck Talk Media. I will. I'll put it out there. It's not like I don't have it. I just need to make time and get that in my regiment to get the pod out and get the video out to you guys. Enough rambling. Check out Modified Rides and support what Brandon has going on. His pod, Burrell Images. He's whether he's doing a detail job, he shoots for different truck mags. He was editor of Street Trucks. I mean, the guy is I guess maybe the jack of many and master of none, where he would just be so talented and in our scene doing a lot. So for a long time. You can tell my voice is coming back a little bit. I lost it at SEMA, completely gone at Dino's, and tried to heal up, and I'm working on that, time and drinking tea and all that stuff. So we'll get it back. Again, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the support, and happy Thanksgiving to each of you, each and every one of you. All right, guys? Any questions, comments, or concern, it's easy to get a hold of me, Ronnie, RONNIE, at trucktalkmedia.com, Ronnie at Truck Talk Media. You can usually shoot me a DM at C10 Talk, and I don't think I'm that hard to get a hold of. So questions, comments, concerns, let me know. Otherwise, do what you do. Stay out of trouble. Appreciate the support, and have a great Thanksgiving and Turkey Day. Late. All right. What up, C10 Nation and Modified Nation? We're back. Me and Brandon Burrell from Modified Rides Podcast. A little co-host. I don't know. What are we going to call this one?
I thought this was a Modified Rides podcast.
It is. We'll call it C10 Modified Talk. No, C10 Modified Talk Rides Podcast.
Yeah, that just sounds dyslexic, but this is my first collab with another podcast. I've had other podcasters on, but the first collab, dual post. But as people learn through this podcast, with what me and you've done over the last year, it made sense for us to team up and do a dual podcast on this for sure.
Dude, I just figured out it's Modified C10 Rides Talk Podcast.
It still sounds dyslexic, but it'll work.
No, you're from North Carolina. That's really good. Modified C10 Rides Talk Podcast coming at you. It's a beautiful Monday, and you and I are. I'm still getting a little bit of my voice back, you could probably tell, but you and I are just post SEMA get down for you all the way back home, and for me, good guys. So a triple whammy.
Well, at least you got to stay on your pretty much the same time zone for the whole time. I'm still trying to adapt to am I on East Coast time, West Coast time,
Yeah, true. Yeah, I only lost a little bit there. And the funny thing about that is SEMA always does mess up because I'll put in a lot of my scheduled stuff before I go up. Daylight savings will happen, so fall back, right?
Because you guys don't have that.
No, we're normal. Yeah, it's ridiculous. I think
they need to cancel it everywhere.
Well, I've heard it's been voted on a few times, but it doesn't pass, I guess. I don't know. So Yeah, so then my schedule will be I've missed meetings at SEMA because of it because I'll put it in at like let's say there's a 1 o'clock and then I go I go up there and I'm an hour off and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh shit, I forgot about the fall back and so on and so forth. So yeah, then we came back to the get down, which was SEMA was crazy, the get down was crazy. I will say just and I think I mentioned this to you at SEMA, but yeah, you were one of the builds that was pushing me, and we were having fun as we watched each other and both Blazers, obviously one full top 4x and one half top 2-wheel drive, but a lot of the
Mine technically was a 4-wheel drive when I bought it. So
oh, it was,
yeah,
and it's a 76
7.
7. Oh,
So
yellow
that's
trim.
the purists are like, well, why'd you take the yellow trim off? I'm like, well, yellow trim don't match my color theme, so
Yeah,
I build
yeah,
it like I want it.
yeah, and yeah, that's cool. So it was a 77 K5 4x4 and then you switched it out. I don't even what would you all use on your chassis? Let's break some of that down.
So I use the stock chassis, but I have a Porterbuilt front clip,
Hmm.
and no one makes a coilover rear kit for a Blazer. You can cut stuff up or whatever, but I wound up, when I ordered the front Porterbuilt kit, I ordered the rear C10 kit as well. So we cannibalized what we needed, modified the coilover mounts. I did an AVS, weld-in step notch. And what's crazy is even with the weld-in step notch, the Porterbuilt bridge slid perfectly into those C notches. And I was like, just curious, I wonder if this thing will fit. And I just like picked it up and it dropped right in. I'm like, oh wow, that was meant to be. But so we had to modify the rear to get it as low as I wanted. I knew a 4.6 or a 5.7 drop would not cut what I wanted. It had to be hammered on coilovers.
Yeah, that is cool. I lost myself. Can you? Yeah, okay. I thought maybe I turned myself down a little bit too much. What's cool about that is that you sourced it. You did drop the word modify in there twice, so I like how you did that. But um, um,
It's my theme, man.
how when you talk about that, because there's going to be people out there that are going to want to know about this. How much clearance are you tapping your rear end? When I say
Nope.
that, are you your how much space do you have between the top of the chassis to the bed floor, if you will?
Well, we actually come through the floor 3 inches. And, a lot of, if you do the bag chassis, if you do a rotor shop bag chassis or any of these, bagged or super low setups, you have the crazy tall C notch and the seat is either all the way against the front seats or the back's about 8 inches tall. And we knew we wanted to keep a standard seat in the back. So we came 3 inches through the floor, bolted the Snowden seat straight to the bridge cover. So we didn't really lose a lot on that. But the frame sits 4 inches off the ground. Coilovers, that's ride height, 4 inches off the ground. So we basically built the underneath of it like a body drop truck. Nothing hangs below the frame. And of course, with the Porterbuilt stuff, everything's actually like even with the frame or above the frame. And then we just cut the front and rear out to let everything wheel wise clear. So,
Well, I like what you're saying from the perspective of you went 3 inches up, and if you think about your backseat brackets, anyways, they're going to be 3 inches. So essentially, you eliminated that, used your step or modified, and
yeah.
then used that to, I guess, give you the clearance of the rear back seat, and should work out perfect.
Well, we pushed the back seat back in mine probably 3 or 4 inches just to kind of hide the notch when you're looking in through the back window, which gives you a little bit more leg room. But then it just kind of, I think when it flows up the notch into the seat, it just kind of is more cohesive and flows better.
Yeah, for sure. Not only that, but like you said, leg room on the early gens, you lose a lot of leg room. That's where one thing GM hadn't figured out yet when they were just slapping trucks together to make Blazers. You have I guess a kind of where the cab is being cut to the bed floor, and they just kept stock bed floor height, and you have no leg room at all. So depending, growing up in the back of a Blazer, this is what your legs went out straight versus more so of a hanging down.
Yeah.
And
well,
now,
I guess what was it, 80 or so when they redid the floor of those Blazers and put the foot room for the back seat behind the front seats?
78, I believe,
Okay.
is where it drops down. I know for a fact 79. I have a 79. There's a lot more leg room there. But yeah, they figured that out. I think they were like, hey, we could more so get rid of the just using truck stuff
Yeah.
and using more actual Blazer stuff to have that leg room and provide that leg room. But like for you, I mean, I don't know if you intend or you ever thought there'd be a lot of, things going on in the back seat from kids or people riding back there.
Maybe a
Yeah.
buddy cruising around a show. It's about it. My kid's grown, already graduated college. And if she wants to ride for some freak reason, then she's small enough to fit in the back. So I'm not going to stuff one of my 6'3" buddies in the back, but we tested it while building it and you can still fit at 6'3". So,
Well, and kind of staying with your interior, you won a TMI, best interior there, and that interior was just, I mean, it was very well laid out, balanced. Apex leather, we both have that kind of working for us, which was great. Jen and Hunter and their team, give them a shout out because our interiors wouldn't be what they are if it wasn't for Apex, or my carpet, my stitching, my balance, the flow, you as well. And then congrats on winning that, the TMI award, which includes a Barrett Jackson Cup invite.
Yep. Which completely blew my
so you're going to be
mind.
back here before you know it.
Yeah, I have an 8-week gap between Dino's and Scottsdale. So then I get to come back. But yeah, I was actually doing an interview, I want to say with MTX or somebody, and Mulligan texts me and goes, "Hey, your award's lonely over here without you." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he sent me a picture and I'm like, "Best SUV/wagon interior." I'm like, "No, there's no way." Like, completely blew my mind, was not expecting it. This being my 10th SEMA placement, you get kind of a little praise here or there from, some big companies, but had never gotten that. I had never got anything close to that. So to achieve that this year was mind blowing.
Even cooler that, I mean, unfortunately, you think that they would have like presented it to you, but
well, they had the thing, but I didn't know. I'm like, I'm not
going to win that. I didn't get the text. That's crazy.
I was like, I knew I wasn't going to win that. There's so many $70,000-$80,000 SUV interiors there. You've seen them, the round body Blazers, the Scouts, the Broncos, so many high interiors. I'm like, I don't have a chance in this. So it was definitely, not expected.
Good. I mean, congrats on that. And then to come out and run the cup is going to be cool. What do you think? What was your favorite part of your 10th SEMA build?
What you mean at SEMA, or actually the process of getting it there?
The process.
So one of my best friends was the one that built it. So every year I'm like, I'm not doing another SEMA build. This is stupid. The time crunch, trying to source everything, the amount of time you put behind them. Like, I'm not doing this. And then about Wednesday of SEMA, I'm like, okay, what can I do next year? And I'm like, I wanted to do a standard cab, new Ford dually lifted. Like, that's what I wanted. And then I was like, that's a $90-something thousand vehicle off the lot. I'm like, I really don't want to be that deep in it before I even start on it. And then we went to Dino's. Last year was my first time. Me and my builder Adam at AMF Garage, we actually rode to Dino's for after SEMA last year. Then he rode back to North Carolina because I drove. Well, I'm like, man, there's a lot of Blazers here. I really like these Blazers. And from my perspective, like, yeah, I could have done a truck, could have done a C10 or an OBS or something, but as a photographer, I always have camera gear with me, and you can't just throw stuff in the bed of a truck and then stop by Applebee's and have a lunch and then, come back out and all your gear's gone. So I'm like, well, maybe let's do a Blazer. So I have a storage for it. And we started looking once we got back from Dino's, and it snowballed. So I blamed Dino, and I even stopped him at the show and said, so you owe me a check for about half of this build because it's your fault I'm doing a Blazer. For some reason, he said he had to go. He said his radio went off and he had to drive. I never heard the radio, but Terry's like, oh yeah, we got to go. And, so we've become, we've joked about that between me and Dino's. I'm like, it's your fault I built this thing. But then to have it at Dino's a year later, that was super cool.
Did you know you were going to go with a square round headlight? What was your thought process on, first gen, second gen, as you decided to build a Blazer?
Well, I like the square bodies. I've always been one of those ones. All my previous SEMA builds have been brand new, off the lot, 0 miles, modified, lift it, lower it, whatever. I've built some Hondas and stuff back in the day, but I've never done anything old like that. And I'm like, I've always been one of those ones kind of scared of old stuff because everybody I know that has them, either they don't run, they don't start, they don't stop, something don't work on them. And I'm like, if I'm going to do this, let's do everything on it. I don't want something I have to be scared to drive across country if I wanted to. And then I knew the price on the round body stuff has just gone through the roof lately. I'm like, I can financially get into a square body a little cheaper than you can a round body. So that was kind of one of the termination. There wasn't a year specific. I was fine with the half top. I don't ever plan on taking my top off. We don't have the weather that you have there in Arizona. So I plan to leave the top off. So I'm like, I don't care if it's a full top. So we just looked for a square body, and then actually looked at some here on the East Coast, and half rotted, half rusted, found the one I found in Vegas. And then it just, my builder actually said, I'm going to go look at this Blazer for you. Found it in a marketplace, had 3 pictures. I was like, all right, cool. FaceTime me, call me, whatever. Let me know, let me know what you think. I called him. He never answered. I'm like, okay, did he even go look at it? Like 30 minutes later, he called me and goes, oh, hey, I need some money for a deposit. You just bought a Blazer. I'm like, I don't even know what else it looks like. He goes, trust me, it's what you need. It's yours. And I'm like, okay. So that's kind of how it happened.
Nice. Yeah. So pleasantly surprised. How does that work? So if he's in Vegas, you're in North Carolina, what's the process there?
Well, of course, I just Zelled him the money to buy the Blazer. And then once he got it home, he sent me some pictures or FaceTime me or whatever. I got to see what was what. But being one of my best friends, it was easy to work with. He's like, I'll work with you on this build, labor-wise, price-wise, and all that. He goes, but you're going to come out here and help me. And I'm fortunate enough to be in a position that I can take time off. So like I've come out from March for a week. We blew it apart. Come back out April for a couple of weeks. I just stay at his house. So other than the flight, I don't have a rental car. I don't have a hotel to book. And then when I come back out in July, I stayed for a month, and I come out in September. I just bought a one-way ticket. And every week my wife would be like, you coming home this week? I'm like, nope, we didn't get where we needed to be. And that what I thought would be a 2-week trip in September wound up being a 5-week trip. And we almost got it ready. Then I come back out a week before SEMA and finished it. So to be hands-on and work one-on-one with somebody like that for 12, 14 hours a day, I learned a lot. Like, I don't weld, I don't fab stuff. I'm a glorified parts grabber. I can hold a part and turn and do the safety squints while he welds something. That's about as far as my role goes. But I was also putting bolts in, doing as much as I could. So it was cool to be hands-on, which helps with it. Once I get it back home in North Carolina, I'm 2,300 miles from his shop. If something goes wrong, I know where every nut and bolt is. I don't have to question or some shop to lie to me and tell me, oh no, it's this or that. I'm like, no, I know where that goes.
Yeah. And the journey and you guys being together. Same, really, just going through it. My guy is Johnny G. If I wouldn't have been in the position or getting it done if it wasn't for Johnny being the mechanic that he is. And I think a lot of the stress for me was just the sourcing of the parts and making sure I had the parts. And then what I would like to convey to the audience is that when you do a build like this, whether it's a SEMA build or a deadline build, is time is money. From the perspective of, if you allot more time, you can save money on sourcing parts, sourcing hardware, sourcing issues, sourcing just anything and everything. But as time narrows and that sand and that clock is going down and down and down, you start buying 3 of everything. You start overpaying drastically for things.
Overnight
shipping is huge. And then sometimes stuff will be wrong and you're just like, no, I get that here now. And so time is money. So now people have asked me if I would do it over and meaning, would you do this over? Of course I would. We made it. But would I do it again? I have no intentions of. How much time would you say if you and maybe a buddy or 2 were going to build a full SEMA build, including paint? What would you say you would want? Like to save yourself a lot more money and have it on more time? Where would
I'd say plan 2 years out. If it's something that's like what we built, that's a full ground up, every nut and bolt, I would say 2 years if you don't want to have to rush and go through that struggle process at the end. I think 2 weeks would be, I'm sorry, 2 years would be great. Now, we did mine in a short amount of time. You know, a lot of people would take the 2 years. Well, mine, I tell everybody, we did it in 19 weeks. That wasn't 19 40-hour weeks. That was 19 weeks of 12 to 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, you know, everything we could to make that happen. Now, would I do that again in 19 weeks? Ain't no way in hell. I would have to spread that out. Like we'd get back from, you know, going through Del Taco or something at 10:30 at night, and we'd get out of the truck to go back into the house. And we're both like hunched over, limping, you know, cause we're sore from climbing on the ground or, you know, lifting heavy parts. And yeah, give yourself time if you're going to do it. I mean, if you want to add more gray to your beard, definitely try to do it in less than a year.
Yeah. I think, I'm doing the math. I don't even know if we did it in 19 weeks. Mine, the nice thing was it was painted pretty much. So that was a big part of it. But yeah, I just kind of look at July 1st as where we really just said go.
Now,
So
was yours painted when you first got it? Yours was, I remember seeing a picture of it on trailer. Yours was like all still stock and dirty, like out of a barn or something, wasn't it?
Yeah. So for the audience, I just put a bite of something in my mouth.
I could have stretched that question out a little bit.
No, what happened was I bought it and never had the intentions of making it a SEMA build. Bought it 5 miles from Dino's show, like that part of Glendale, Arizona. Yeah. She actually came to the show on Saturday and saw it for the first time since 7 years. I didn't think it'd been 7 years ago. So bought it. My intention was to keep it forever, make a driver out of it, top body line, top trim line down, repair. And I knew I was going to do the wood grain. So I love Grecian bronze. Trim line, body line up, all patina. Leave the factory paint because it was all there. It had been repainted. So, but it was a good repaint. Started buffing it, and we're like, this is awesome. Hood's good, fenders are good. Body line up. Everything's body line up. Took the top off, and that, for the audience, that bed rail.
Yeah.
And it's very common that where you bolt the square body, which is going to be a single wall top, where you bolt down over time, and a lot of time, moisture gets in there, and so there was rust there. So then
that you didn't expect.
Yeah, it wasn't, you know, and then it was like, just leave it, which, you know, either way. Then the challenge was, can at the roll at the very top, as it rolls to go to the bed rail,
to the flat, yeah,
can we fix that and then blend that? Well, what happens is now you're like, oh my God, you're trying so hard to keep an old original single stage repaint, just paint the whole thing. Okay, so there's that.
And you're probably running the same situation I was. Yeah, you can find C10 parts, you know, all day long, but specific Blazer stuff like bed rails and stuff like that, no one makes.
Well, this thing was all fixable. So at that point, the guy that was doing paint and body, Caesar Mata, which is Matador Paint and Body, Matador Powder Coat, it was over there. I had already taken care of him, but what happened was then COVID hit. So he had lost his painter, and he and I were not on the same page for the firewall. Once I started saying I want a little bit more firewall, meaning instead of just like, say, a flat piece, I wanted to do some stuff, which I ended up doing, which turned out great.
For sure.
At that point, it just sat and it was just stagnant. And then I'm working on other stuff, out of sight, out of mind. And finally, he's like, hey, I'm not going to do paint anymore. We got to square up on this. So he and I just came to terms on a lot of powder coat credit. And I said, okay, I'll just pull it and we're good. So at that point, I had met a new painter. At that point, I had agreed to go to SEMA. And I was going to go and bring a Blazer to SEMA in, I think, 21. And I said yes for about 10 to 14 days. And then I said no. Hey guys, are you thinking about swapping out your old motor for a more reliable LSLT-based power plant? Behind each PSI harness, you get over 10 years of experience in the business, online tech support, phone support, and harnesses made in the U.S. That's psiconversion.com. What's up, guys? Who doesn't like to bundle and save? The team at UP Car Parts knows this, and they put together 7 different bundles for you to choose from to save up to 20% off of your lighting. From headlights to taillights to marker lights, UP Car Parts got you covered. upcarparts.com. Save up to 20% today. You've heard me talk about my gauges. Dakota Digital. I love them. Dakota Digital has the best gauges for our trucks. These kits are complete with sensors for any engine. They look just like the stock clusters, but have all the technology you'd expect from Dakota Digital. It's like a modern truck, but even better in a classic. Dakota Digital is absolutely the best in aftermarket gauges, so check them out at dakotadigital.com. dakotadigital.com. At that point, I had agreed to go to SEMA. And I was going to go and bring a Blazer to SEMA in, I think, 21. And I said yes for about 10 to 14 days. And then I said no. Yeah, I was like,
Smart man.
And it was the same. It was with United Pacific, and they had hit us up. And I said, okay. And then I just said, nah, it's not in the cards. At that point, still kids at home, still kids in high school, still kids, being got to be present, and I wasn't ready for that. So said no. John Oro takes the prom queen, worked out perfect for him, perfect for UP, worked out for me. My kids were still around at home and so on and so forth. So that project just, stagnant, and then said yes this time around, and then got on it. I would say maybe got on it a little late. But I did have a lot of parts that I had already started to order, check off the list.
Yeah.
And really, that was a big, I think that helped me a lot, having the parts, the big parts. I had ordered Marquet, RIP. Hopefully they come back. I had the Marquet trim. I had some, I had my Dakota gauges. You
had the trim in hand already?
Yeah, I bought it 4 years ago. Because
I ran into me ordering it, and 10 days after I ordered it, they closed the doors. I was actually down at AMD, and where I had Jason Chandler on the podcast. I was down there recording with him, and he's like, "What trim are you running?" I was like, "Oh, I ordered Marquet." And he's like, "No, you didn't." I'm like, "Yeah, I did." And he goes, "They're out of business." So that's how I found out about it. And he's like, "Well, we have a truck trim kit." He's like, "If your builder's willing to modify it, we can do it." And luckily it was a 10-day gap, so I could fight with my credit card, and I got my money back. I know a lot of people got screwed on that deal, but that was just, they were the only ones that made the Blazer kit at the time.
Well, and I mean, I did talk to you guys a little bit at SEMA, and you said you had really good luck with the AMD stuff. I talked to another builder, which was the Canadian C10 guy, Donnie. They use that on the Avocado, which I'm calling the sweet granny apple truck, but they're calling, maybe avocados are a different color in Canada. I don't know, but I call it the Granny Smith truck. But
makes more sense.
Yeah, and I kept calling it that, and I don't think he liked it, but so they use the AMD stuff. So shout out to AMD, and that is a lot cheaper option as well. The only thing I heard about that kit, and you could add positive or negative to it, is that you might have to use a few more sticky pads, which is fine, right? I mean, the stuff
being weak cut, like my inner fender's out to be able to tuck the wheels so much in the rear, I had access to be able to reach up. So we actually added 22 extra bolt-on clips to mine. And then stickies and all that. So mine is tight all the way around. So even with my patina, like one of my doors has a little wave to it, and the molding flows with the wave to it. It don't have any kind of gap. And I think that's a trick to that, is to add extra where you can reach. Somebody like yours, you're not going to have access to reach where I did because your fender wells are still intact. Well, we widened mine 2 inches on each side, cut it out towards the bedside, just like we would a body drop truck. So I could reach up in there and, stick my arm and get to the nut on the backside. But that made a big difference. And my builders dealt with some older, like AMD trim and stuff. And he's like, man, he said, some of the stuff is like, it don't fit right, this and this. But as with any company, AMD's like retooled their stuff over the years, made it, tried to bring the parts to more of an OEM stuff. And as soon as we got it out of the box, started fitting it, even Adam, my builder, was like, man, this stuff fits damn good. So we made it work and added the more bolts instead of stickies. So we didn't have an issue with it. But yeah, it went on good. Didn't have any issues at all. Now we did have to cut several inches off of 2 pieces per side because it was made for the truck, but then had to remake the end of it and all that. And even the guys at AMD, Jason and Eddie, they're like, that looks like a factory end on that molding. And I'd done a video on how to do it, and AMD shares it all the time. So I was like, oh, do you have a Blazer kit? And they're like, no, but watch this video and see if you're comfortable doing it.
Well, and again, I have Marquet on Orange Slice, which is, a modified long bed to short bed, but even that at certain spots doesn't fit the best. And I really like the Marquet stuff. I like what you said. Another thing for the audience is just because you can't get to the backside to nut a screw versus a sticky, you can get the old school pop through. So you think about like when you're hanging something on drywall where you put it through and it pops through. Yeah. They do make a nice, old school clip like that where it'll narrow once you get it through the hole. So just because you have your factory holes doesn't mean you can't add 2 more somewhere else. I mean, God knows that these square bodies over time have seen so many drilled through holes.
We welded a few up.
Yeah, and you could easily just modify or, clean out those said holes. A perfect example is going to be a bed. Well, a bed's going to have a hole on the front and it's going to have a hole around the corner on the back. Yep. And most everything else is going to be sticky. On your front of a square body, you're going to have 4 that go around the hockey stick, which is a really hard piece. Well, you can just do that. You're going to, unless your trim's going to be your trim. I'd rather have a hole in the back at the body line and then a nice, again, I forget what they call that, where the nut and it goes and it flares out, but they make that fitting where you just pop it through. And if you can't get access to it and back it up, the technology and the hardware now with, a 10 millimeter nut with the little rubber grommet inside of them. I mean, everything's so much better and it looks so good and seals up so well. Another thing to throw in there is that I heard Marquet, somebody bought that stuff. I heard that at SEMA. So meaning the tooling. So I can't remember who it was. I think the reason why I can't remember is I don't think it was shared with me, but somebody said, stand by, because I was talking to somebody and I said, you got to go buy that. And they're like, oh, it was bought. So maybe it's been bought and via bankruptcy or a fire sale or something like that. So, yeah. I mean, there's no way they weren't making money. I think the guy David just ran it into the ground. My contact, Kevin, I've tried him honestly on an average of once a week on the phone and text, and he doesn't get back to me. And, they owe me a lot of money. I'll never see the money. I really wish I would have saw it in trim, which would have been cool because I really like their product, but yada, yada, yada.
And we also looked at, you could always drill all the way through from the outside once you mark where you'd want to put another bolt in clip, and then go all the way through to the inside panel, then widen that inside panel hole and just put a grommet in it because you're going to cover it with interior stuff anyway. So there's ways around that to make your trim better than OEM ever thought of doing it.
Yeah.
Tailgate, I think had 9 stickies on each one, and we put like 4 or 5 bolts in it. You pull that tailgate cover off and you can reach every one of them.
Yep. I moved mine from a tailgate band to the center, and I got rid of the tailgate band and I just did the Chevrolet in the center.
Yeah.
And there's 3 out of the 4 access to get to back that emblem up. Yeah. So it's all there once you pull that. Another thing too you can do, and I probably will do on the next Blazer I build, is just use a truck tailgate. No glass. So on a Blazer, a square body Blazer, if you don't plan on running a top and you're just going to have a Benamy or some sort of, like you said, in Arizona where the weather's a little bit nicer versus maybe a NC or something like that where you're getting a little more moisture. I'll just put a truck tailgate on there, and I don't have to screw with that freaking heavy ass glass in there and so on and so forth. Those tension springs. I would like to come up with a solution for that. There's got to be a better, new, modern, you think about like a 2024 tailgate where the guy walks up and pushes the button,
Yeah.
and the damn thing drops down and picks back up. Now, granted, they're a lot lighter than a Blazer tailgate full of glass and parts and so on.
I
and so
think
forth.
because the Blazer tailgate is so wide, like you can't even do the shocks like you would on a truck because it fits so tight into that jam.
Yeah,
and
they
these
won't
guys that
fit.
are running with no torsion springs, like we were going to tuck my rear bumper, and I talked to like one guy that did it, and I was like, "Well, how hard is it?" He goes, I hate opening my tailgate," and I'm like, "I'm not going to fight with that every day." So we just decided, at that point, not to tuck the bumper. I mean, it would look cooler with the bumper tucked, but there's just no room for it, and it is what it is.
Yeah. For the audience to paint the picture on if you've never seen or had a Blazer, the glass is in the tailgate. So the tailgate goes in at the top 3 inches further, it narrows, and then it goes inside what would be the back of your truck bed.
Yeah.
3 inches at the top, comes down to 0 at the bottom at an angle of the dangle. All your glass and hardware is in there. And then that's why you have a filler panel on a Blazer, because your bumper is going to be, now it's not bracketed, it's part of the frame.
Yeah.
So your back bumper is part of the frame, and you have, I don't know, 2.5 inches, and it's a filler panel, and that's your torsion springs. Pretty much your torsion springs. That's how they have it. And there's really not much else going on there. You have a little piece that holds the torsion spring. And when I say a spring, it doesn't even look like a spring.
It's a hook.
It's a hook. Yeah, it's a hook
that no one makes aftermarket.
No, and not only that, they don't make the little plastic piece where it rolls. So I'm looking at trying to figure out a way to Delron print that or something. There's got to be a way, but
well,
yeah.
I know AMD's currently working on some Blazer stuff. They've got a couple tore apart. Of course, any R&D time takes time.
Yeah.
But I know that they're trying to get as many of those Blazer specific parts to the market. So we'll see what happens.
I think it was AMD. Somebody just came out, and I do think it's AMD. Somebody just finally came out with a shell for a Blazer tailgate.
Well, the round bodies, for the round bodies, they've had them.
Okay.
Precision. Precision, not Premier. Yeah, Premier. Yeah, not Precision.
Well, Premier, you think has I think somebody else came out with the tailgate as well, like a bigger AMD LMC. Somebody like that came out with a true shell for not a Blazer shell, just your tailgate is what I mean.
Oh, okay, yeah,
yeah. Because I have 3 used tailgates. I buy used tailgates for Blazers when I can find them, because you can't find them, and you can't find all those parts, because those parts are what you're chasing. You're chasing.
I looked for probably a month for the power plug that goes on back of the key in order to make your power. You can't find that little flat with the wires out of the bottom because there's no clearance in there. Could not find that anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, we digress on Blazer specific stuff, but what happens is that wire runs through a hole in the left driver corner, and it shoots through there, goes into the bed, and it's just a nightmare, right? It's not great technology. So I just laugh at some of the stuff that GM has done, whether it's truck specific or Blazer specific, that they didn't really fix over time. Like the gearbox is probably one of the biggest things, especially on a 4x4 truck and or Blazer. Like, really, you guys couldn't figure out how to brace this shit so that the frame wouldn't crack there or crack in the back by the shock. It's just funny stuff where they're like, nah, people will keep buying them. We'll keep freaking, selling them and working on the next rendition of the 88 to 98 stuff or whatever. But
well, I know one of the things me and you had in common though was the engine, that we had the same LT1 Gen 5 engine. Did you use the 10-speed in yours? I
did, and I went around on that. So first I was going to use LS, then I was going to do the Del S, and I just kind of was like, oh man. And then my son has a 2019 Camaro SS, and I love his car, and I'm like, you know what? It's the same, snowballs, go big or go home. So I was like, F it. I'm going to do the LT1. And then I kind of had that vision in my head. And then for the audience, if you're looking for, I can't comment on the 10L yet, because I've only have 8.3 miles on my Blazer, and I've will shake
900 on mine.
See, there you go. So, but transmission wise, do you have the 10L90?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there you go. So
Because mine's a 2021 Camaro SS is what mine come out of.
Okay, so I just bought mine from GM. Went down the road. They're a whole whopping 0.8 miles from me. Went down and bought it there. The difference is I had to buy a tool drive 10L90, then take it to zero gravity here in Mesa. They convert it, output shaft, and while they're there for $350, they put the Ford pin in there because Ford and Chev own the 10L90 together.
Okay.
So there is said to be a little less problems with the Ford version. So whatever that pin was for $350 of labor and part, they said this is a little bit better, and I think it's better for more for fluid. And so the guy's like, "Do you want me to do that?" And I'm all, "Yeah, you're already there, so do that." So we'll see where that all shakes out. But I believe the part of the riddle that's hard is GM won't sell you a four-wheel drive one unless you have a core, which is hard to get and a shit ton of money. So that's why I had to do the tool drive and then pay. I think the conversion plus the Ford pin, I want to say that ran me $1,500 above and beyond what I was already paying for the, the brand new LT1 and the brand new 10L90. And then I went with the Atlas. So, same. I was like, NP205 is, the best transfer case known to man, really. I mean, that's OG. And I was going to rebuild that or have it rebuilt. And I just said, well, you had an LT1 with a 10L90.
Did you use I can't remember, did you do a column shift or floor shift?
Column.
So I know that's the thing is no one really makes a column shift adapter for the 10 speed. So it's like that I know of. So we had to kind of adapt a couple to make it work because we had to block off. So once you come to drive, you can't go down into all the other gears because then that computer freaks out from what I understand.
So I'm using SpearTech and I haven't got to that. I will tell you that I have the column shift. I have a low car Ford maybe set up for the column shift and the linkage. And it goes into gear great, but it only has, because I have the Dakota Digital, it only goes into D and 2. So I don't know. I mean, it seems really smooth right now.
Mine would keep going. So we had to put a stop on it to keep it from going on down because I know a lot of people do the column shift because then you can still do the tap shift. You can still do all that, which to me was not relevant. Every car I've had that's had paddle shifters or tap shift, I've never once used it. So it wasn't worth for me to do the column. So that was one of the things we come into. I know, I have some friends like we're back and forth like, oh, I'm building this LS or I'm building this. I don't think people understand in the last probably 5 years the price that's changed on engines, whether it's a pullout like mine or it was a brand new one like yours. The amount of inflation on these engines has, I feel, gone through the roof lately. You agree?
Well, I guess I would say that I don't have a big, I think your LS, your 5.3 are probably down over the general price of the motor. Now, granted, that motor is going to have a lot more miles on it than it did 5 years ago. But then when you throw in, again, maybe just a PSI and, a 4L80, a 4L60, something like that, the labor is what will get you. And then the general parts, okay, that's going to get you. So for my motor, what I paid for a brand new motor, a brand new trans, and then the Atlas, it was at least 25. So
and everybody's like, oh, I could do an engine swap for like $4,000 to $5,000. And I'm like, well, good luck on that.
No, you can't. No, you couldn't even do that, at least around here, with labor. So, I tell people all the time. So, if you have an LS takeout, I have an 04 Tahoe. It's my daughter's and I drive it all the time. Cause she's at college and she has a college car, I guess. But I needed a new motor, but I had an 04 Yukon that I bought a long time ago. So when you're pulling a motor and putting a motor in and you have your computer and everything and you're just plug and play, and then maybe you can do something like that. But when you're factoring in your computer, drive by wire, it all just adds up, and it's just, it's almost scary. Like you and I talked about before, is like what your receipts look like and what do you have. And I would just tell the audience, if you watch home improvement shows and they're like, oh, sorry, but it's another 20 grand. Yeah, you're going to spend a lot. Whatever you think I would say bump it by 35%. And then
minimum.
and then you might be safe at that point. What wiring did you use? What computer?
PSI.
Okay. So of course I love PSI and I was going to use PSI. The reason why I didn't was I wanted the Camaro radiator and the Camaro fan and the Camaro.
Yeah, you did more of the
pump.
OEM plus look on yours.
100%. So I wanted all that Camaro stuff, which is your PWM, which is your pulse width management. And so that's why I ended up, and I called PSI. I mean, I love those guys and they're great, but I wanted to have more of that modern LT PWM. And with their stuff, they kind of, I hate to use the word dummy it down, but they don't use that technology of the radiator, of the fan. And I just wanted some of that, more of that OE stuff. I say all that, and then I did go with the Vintage Air front drive system, which is a great drive system. The only limitation that you have, and I don't think it's a problem, is, and we're getting pretty deep in here on some of this technical stuff for you guys that we've figured out throughout this process, is the water pump. So if you have a water pump that goes bad, you're going to kind of want that. If I'm going to do a trip like you did across country from, say, Vegas back, are you going to want to call Vintage and go, hey, what water pump can I buy? Is it proprietary to you? Because I want to have a water pump so I can exchange or change this out. I've seen guys that are on Power Tour, for example, where maybe they're running a different front drive system. And that was something that I researched. And the guy that I would say I used as a big time advisor on, especially the LT1 stuff, is he was recommending Drive Junkie, which uses use your stock Camaro or LT1 front drive system, and then you're modulating out your other stuff. And I didn't like the look of that, and I didn't want it. And the Vintage Air setup is really nice.
Well, the way I see it, if I have any issues, I have AAA. So
yeah,
I'll take it to somebody else to do it.
Yeah. And I just was like, well, that's one thing that I would say is something to consider. I don't plan on doing a 5,000 mile road trip in it, but that would be one thing I don't, I think mine changed completely. I see if I had yours, and mine changed completely after I spent so much money on it. And I don't know. I guess I would probably trailer it. I definitely would like to take it up north and do some photo shoots, but mine changed. It got so much money into it, and paint and body and all the bells and whistles. And then you kind of you're like, oh shit, should I keep this? Should I sell it?
What rear gear did you put in yours?
373s. I get asked that a lot. And
you're going to hate it.
Because of the 10L90?
Yep, I'm changing mine. So my builder's like, I've done,
but here's one
swaps.
But here's a big reason, and I want to let you finish it, but you don't have 35-inch tires.
Yeah, true.
So that might be a change where we did the ratio of the 35-inch tire. So when you look at a 35 and then you do the 373s and then the Atlas, so we tried to find that sweet spot RPM wise. So go ahead, and then we'll.
Well, I know. So I got a 9-inch. We ordered a narrowed 9-inch for mine. So the third member, we wound up doing a 370. Well, it worked driving around. Like, so my builder's like, I've done, hundreds of LS swaps or whatever. And we've all, the thing is a 373 or a 370 if it's a 9-inch in it. And that's the route we went. Well, going to Dino's, you're kind of coming up a couple of those hills and you're running 75 miles an hour and you're at about 2,300 RPMs. And it's like, no. Or driving across an intersection. I'm in third or fourth gear before I get across the intersection, not even romping on it, just kind of easing. So I'm actually stepping down. My engine builder said with my driving, because I don't beat on stuff. I'm not one to go do burnouts. Like I like to get in it and cruise. Yeah, it's got a little power, but I don't, power's not done anything for me. Like I just like the cruise, aspect of it. So we're doing a 3.0 gear in it to kind of space those gears out some where I'm not shifting so fast. Because he said my first 4 gears are useless in mine right now.
Well, what I was told about the 10L too is 10L also is that the first 4 gears on a 10L, you're just blowing through them so fast. Like you're in 4th, 5th gear before you even get to the stoplight, right? Or through the intersection, because when you take off, it's like ba 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 ba, and they're so quick. So I bet, do you have a 295, a 305? What's your rear tire?
335, 25, 22.
So yeah, it would be interesting to see if we did the calculation of your rear tire and then mine and then where we ended up ratio wise, because that was what we worked on with No Coast, who built my front and rear end, and then with Spear Tech, telling them, okay, here's what I'm running, here's what I have from the computer perspective to the really for the audience. It's not, we're not talking about the motor here. We're talking about your trans, and then I have to go through a transfer case, which you don't. But you've got, or I guess I don't have to go through it, but I'm also, it's part of it. So having that 10L90, I would say, I don't have an opinion on it yet because I haven't really worked it that hard. You have, but you're dealing with your tire. Is the 6L80 is like the best way to go.
So you bought a C10 and it either had AC at one time or it wasn't even an option. Well, Vintage Air has the solution for you. Their SureFit kits are designed to place the evaporator and hoses behind the dash for a factory clean look. The Vintage Air SureFit kits are the best value and the most completely engineered air conditioning system you can install in your C10. Damn, son, the choice is obvious. VintageAir.com.
Seeing is believing. The crispness of the United Pacific LED headlights, taillights, marker lights, and more makes seeing and showing your truck that much better. It's time to upgrade your old dim halogens for new LED headlights, taillights, and more. They offer the brightest and latest LED technology. Headlights are available up to 1600 lumens, easy to install, and it fits right in the OEM housing. How about upgrading to sequential taillights? They're DOT approved and ready to ship today. Think UP Car Parts. That's upcarparts.com. Really worked it that hard. You have, but you're dealing with your tire. Is the 6L80 is like the best way to go. Like a 6L versus a 10L90. I would say an LT1 with a 6L80 is going to get you everything you want. Obviously, the 8s are horrible. Nobody likes the 8s. I haven't really heard very many good things about the 8s. 10s you hear good and bad, but I think an LT with a 6L80, maybe even a 4L80 is like your best bang for your buck and least problems, especially if you're going through 1, 2, 3, 4 so quick on a 10. And then you would say, well, why'd you go with a 10? Well, why not? I wanted to see where it's at, and we'll kind of go from there.
I know my engine tuner said that he could, by changing the gears, he said he could probably have me hard in it at 80 and probably about 1700 RPMs, which anything over like 2000 RPMs, those MagnaFlows want to scream. So you're like having a conversation. You're like, oh, I got a downshift here. I'll talk to you in a few minutes. Like you just go ahead and give up talking because you're screaming at each other.
So on your selector, are you just seeing drive 2 and 1, or what are you seeing on your selector?
Mine just stops at drive.
Oh, okay. So yeah, my Dakota, I have drive and then 2. And a lot of times actually when I'm putting it into gear, it wants to go to 2. And I kind of have to pop between D and 2 is just, it's fine.
That's why we put that stopper on mine. So it literally, once it goes to drive, it's done.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense because I look down and it's all digital, and I have the OG, right? I bought the OG to put in there, your OG visual gear selector that goes on the column. But from the Dakota Digitals, boom, 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 RTX, it wants to go to 2. And then I'm like, oh, I just passed it, and then I'll go to put it, and it goes into neutral, and then I put it into D. So I've got to play around with that a little bit. It goes into reverse, freaking great. It's like perfect right there. So might just have some linkage that I have to work through and maybe just put a stop on it like that. Do I need 2? I don't need 2.
No.
Yeah.
I know me and you bounce back and forth quite a bit during this process, which I feel is one thing about our community in general is like, even though you're building something completely different than the way I was building it, there's still a lot of the same stuff we were going through. So we kind of bounced off, see what's what. Like you have that OEM Plus under the hood where mine's all showy and, all that stuff. But it was cool to be able to see, all right, you're at this stage. Okay. And I'm at this stage. Like we were pretty much neck and neck in that last little home, little stretch for sure. Yeah, it did. It was good. Donnie, who was checking in as well from C10 Canadian C10 guy. Yeah. I'm like, bro, I got it. He would be like, I'm done. How's it going? Are you going to make it? And I'm like, I'm going to make it. Don't like, I got it. And he's like, okay, just checking in. And I'm like, he's the same thing with me. Yeah. And I'm like,
I got it. Like it became kind of funny. And then you guys would post something and then Chris from Liquid Creation would be another guy. I mean, he was along the same lines as us. He was making more of a break to get to the get down where you and I were essentially a week prior getting to obviously getting to SEMA, or 2 weeks. But I do remember share this funny moment with the audience is I always kind of was like, okay, I'm going to load in on the first is what I thought. And because it's an inside spot, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to load in on the first. And when they told me that I was gonna first being Saturday, November 1st, and they told me, oh, you can load in. We want you here at noon on Monday the 3rd. I was like, oh my God, I felt like I just been given 2 weeks, like I got 2 more days, or I guess it would almost been like 40 hours. And I will say that Sunday going into it, I planned on sleeping, but I didn't. So we just stayed up the whole time, and once we got on the road, then I took a little break to get up there. But yeah, that's a great feeling when you've been there. I hadn't. It was stressful driving in because everything was already in Saturday and Sunday and Monday, and I rolled in at noon, and I had to switch out. So my tires, at least the fronts, I had all 4 on the Goonie wheels, but I switched out, and then I rolled in, and it was stressful because everything. It's not that it's the aisles are narrow; they're not bad, but when you're
something you've not driven before, you don't know your clearance.
Not only that, but everybody's cars are right there, and you're like, I wanted spotters like nonstop. I'm like, I'm driving this in around these, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 cars.
Well, if where you were at, you were in that front corner of the second half of Central, and anybody that wasn't there, we'll go ahead and say, if you go down that right side, like where Roadster shops goes, you're $500,000 to $3 million vehicles, everything against that wall. So I'd be terrified too.
Yeah, every corner, I'm taking a little corner, and then I'm backing in, and I'm like, okay, I want to make sure that my foot's covering the brake at all times. Like, where's a kill switch? I got to be ready here. This thing, I don't want this thing going haywire on me. But yeah, what a time, and what a 3 weeks. And it's funny because a lot of guys will say, you work so hard on it, now you don't want to see it. And I'm not there yet. Because I'm so far behind on certain things, like my shop's a mess. So I have plenty to keep me busy to get back to, I guess, what you would consider caught up. I don't know if I'll ever be caught up, but yeah. So there's just, I'm sure it's the same thing for you. Just life doesn't stop while you're building everything else,
Well, I total throughout this year, I've got right at 4 months that I lived in Vegas. I had friends that call like, hey, do I need to forward your mail for you? Are you doing like dual citizenship? Like, what are you doing here? Well, I actually flew out a week before SEMA to help finish it. And Sunday when I rolled in at SEMA, we literally filled the rest of the trans up, since the pullout, I had trans fluid, but then we have the radiator trans cooler. We added the auxiliary trans cooler. So we had to add more fluid. We literally added fluid, put the sponsor logos on, and drove 3 miles to the show. That was my initial drive. I had 10 on it at SEMA. We drove up and down the road a couple times, just seat the brakes and make sure that nothing was going to fall off, driving down the road. But yeah, that 3 mile drive was probably the best 3 miles I've ever driven in my life, knowing that 2 months prior, this was a stack of parts, a bunch of bags of bolts, nothing was together. To now I'm driving this thing 3 miles to the biggest car event in the world.
Yeah. The 3 mile shakedown to SEMA. That's kind of funny. You brought up bag of bolts, and that cued something in my brain. That was the biggest thing. If I bought parts from somebody and they had hardware with their shit, I was like, you're the best.
Yep.
Because I would buy parts that didn't have hardware, and I was just cussing them. Like, you son of a bitch. You couldn't add $2 more worth of parts that now I have to find the right length. I have to find this grommet. I have to do this. And so I don't have a list, but I'll think about it. And if there was a company that would sell you hardware with their parts, a baggie that went with it, man, that is just a lifesaver when you're pressed for time and organizationally challenged. And you're just like, okay, this is nice. I've got this. I'm going to mark it. We lost one thing that we never did find, we lost 5, but we found 4. One of them was my Blazer inside tailgate handle. Took it to the polisher, and then my buddies are like, "We gave it to you." I'm all, "No, you didn't." They're like, "It's in your laundry. You put it in your pocket," and and then finally, like right before SEMA, they found it. I had a backup, of course. I had backups for everything, but
I bought a new one from Motor City K5 or somebody.
Yeah, you had that. That was my one thing that I wanted to keep original to the truck. So I tried to pick something that was like, this is like original and just part of that soul of that. And I don't know why I picked that inside door gate handle, but I did. And then those sons of bitches freaking lost it, and then we found it, and it worked out. But yeah, it was funny. We were looking through trashes. We were looking through boxes for different parts and some of them were little tools that we couldn't find. They're like,
I've done the same thing.
Where's that step bit? I know you had it. Where's this? Where's this? And the one thing we lost and still haven't found, and I called Brad at Design Deluxe Design. The guy that does the ashtray, he does the ashtray charger. Was the housing. So we had it, all the parts were in the box, but the actual big piece that he makes was gone, and we could never find it. And we have pictures of it being set in the ashtray, and somehow it got tossed out. And so for SEMA, I left the ashtray closed, and then I put it in before Dino's, and it worked out. But it was like, how did we lose this part?
You mentioned finding bolts. So we don't have it on the East Coast. I know it's a West Coast. I don't think you have it in Arizona. There's a McFadden Dell.
Online. A lot of buying that shit online.
I probably have about $2,000 worth of bolts through McFadden. I was one of those ones, like I could kind of read what the bolt direct, what the measurements, whatever were. My builder would be like, all right, here's your list, need this. I could tell you where they're all at McFadden now, the rubber grommets. Like we talked before going on about having like Goldschlager flashbacks. If I walk by the bolt aisle in Lowe's, the hardware aisle, I start having that little twinge. I'm like, I don't even want to go down this aisle. I don't want to buy another nut, bolt, washer, anything the rest of my life.
100%. And that is exactly what I mean by two things. By if you have the product before and it comes with what you're buying, and or time is money. Because I would be like, somebody go to Ace. I need a quarter 20. I need this.
Tractor Supply.
And so for us, we have Tractor Supply, we have Ace, and but McFadden is ordered online. We have a place called Copper State Nut and Bolt, which is huge, but it's expensive. And when you're buying that's how Ace keeps the doors open, man. Those little bolt bins where you're buying those. The one thing I would recommend to the audience is if you're lucky enough to blow apart a vehicle. And then what I did was I took all that hardware and I took it to a place. My buddy Jay, I call him the acquaintance. He said, "Hey, go here and it wasn't cheap. It wasn't as cheap as I was hoping or the value. But when you think about when you're spending $4 on one bolt at Ace, was take all the nuts and bolts, what's good and what's salvageable, and then what else you have laying around. And then I had it all zinc coated. So they did black and they did the clear. And so I just harvested up everything I had around here. The only problem with that was we spent a lot of time, and I hope that I can get to it, is we spent a lot of time. I had one bin that it was like a little kid in a Lego set. We're always looking for
that one small two-piece.
Yeah, we're always looking for it. And then I'm a big proponent. I probably have like 10 to 20 of these Husky, like these bins that you open up and they have little containers and you can take them out. So I was filling those up with little quarter 20s and 5/16 by 18. And I was trying to do some of that as you start, because you're already in the Lego set and you're like, well, if I'm in the Lego set, I should just separate some of this now and then get to it. So yeah, mark your bolts if you can. And then if you can there's times too where I have a small, that's a pretty good sized little cabinet, sandblast. I would just go back, sandblast it, paint it, get it ready, get it cleaned up. The only problem with that is then you turn around and some guy's got a 9/16 half inch and he's wrenching on what you just painted.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's not ready. Or put 2 plastic bags over that before you wrench on it so it doesn't just strip the paint off,
Now,
so going back.
You mentioned about companies having the parts that came with it. We talked about like Porterbuilt earlier. I'd say when I laid everything out with Porterbuilt, Every bag is labeled what it is, every nut, bolt, washer. That is probably one of the most inclusive parts from companies that I'd ever gotten. I was like, this is impressive.
Yeah, and it makes a huge difference. I would say Off-Road Design, who's, my version of Portability on this 4x4 chassis setup, same. I don't know that it's necessarily labeled, but it's not hard to figure out. But that's another thing is make sure if I need 5 bolts, just put 6 in there.
Yeah.
I don't even care if you charge me. Just charge me. I don't want to go looking for shit. It's just a waste of time. And you already know that I need it. And if it's my decision to paint it or color code it or upgrade to a freaking, whatever it is, then that's on me. But for you guys out there, work with those companies. And, obviously Porterbuilt's a great company. Off-Road Design's a great company. We know a lot of those chassis companies. We're lucky here too. We have a Frontier Shop Supply, and there's other, like I said, Copper State Nut and Bolt. You can just buy bins, and if you're doing something like that, hardware will be your kryptonite. Hardware will be your nemesis. If you don't go through your hardware, it's something you just don't think about, and then you're like, well, what size does this need, and what do I need here? And take a lot of pictures, a lot of notes, a lot of Sharpies, a lot of baggies, a lot of, just little notes. And thank God for cameras. I think about the guys that, let's say the 30 years ago, the guy that decided to rebuild something, the freaking Polaroid, I don't know what the hell they were doing. It's like, I got videos of how I disassembled something, put it back together, a little spring right here, a little this right here.
Well, I was shooting a lot of tech article stuff on my build as well that I'm doing in CK. So I was just taking as many photos as I can. Cause I'm like, all right, well, I don't know what I'm going to need until it's not like I'm putting on a part on a new vehicle that, like you unbox it and it goes on. Like you're having to show how those parts work. So I was taking tons of photos, and I'd literally go back through, and I can access my MacBook through my Google Drive. And I'd be like, all right, I'd scroll through Google. I'm like, all right, well, here's that picture of that part. Cause you're like, I know I got a picture of it somewhere. That was a lifesaver.
Yeah. Yeah. And for you, the audience, the builder, the hobbyist, the enthusiast, the modifiedist, then you do the same. Just take your time, prepare for time. And you will not, it's the gift that keeps on giving, is that phone and that Google Drive, and just having that on there and just going through it and being like, when did I do that? When did I timestamp that? And I had, obviously my wife we must have had a birthday or something, because whatever those little paper plates are, I don't know, they're 6-inch diameter maybe. And I had some hot pink ones, and they were just in the drawer. So I got them, and I would write Sharpie, and I would take things apart. And at one point I had a 6-foot plastic table just full of like 20 of these hot pink little paper plates, and they all had writing on them, and I had little hardware in them before I would go through and separate them and kind of go through and take pictures of everything. So I think for the audience to learn from Brandon and I's build experience, that's a big part of it, is just going through it, taking your time.
Organization.
Another thing is you need probably a minimum of a 1.5 car garage. If you have just a single, man, oh man, I don't know. It's tough because parts are big, and you got to be able to move stuff inside and outside, and you need a lot of room.
Mine was built in a 30x40 shop, which is where AMF Garage is, in his backyard. But there was a cab off of a 72 sitting in there. He's got his fab table. Like, there was a lot of that stuff in there. So we didn't have the whole 30x40. So you had mentioned earlier that you wouldn't do this again. And I talk about SEMA builds and builds in general and stuff on my podcast on a regular basis. And I say I love the process of the build. Like, usually I'll say once I'm done turning wrenches, like, I'm bored with it. This is a little different because I say this checks every box I could ever want on any build I would ever want, between the powder coated chassis, the bed liner underneath, the interior, the drive, the engine, everything. But you said you wouldn't do this again. So why wouldn't you do this kind of build again?
Well, I will do this type of build
on a time crunch.
Yeah, just the SEMA time crunch. I don't see that. I plan on building plenty more Blazers that I have. I have a good amount of stuff to build in my lifetime, and I want to. I'll tell you what this did. This is a cool thing. This makes me want to go back and build some stuff that I've already built, because once you go to this level, again, I try to just pass it on to the people and what you can learn. And a perfect example is what I call the Big Sky 25, which is a 1976 4x4 GMC 2500 25. I built it, took it the last minute to Dino's last year. It has 3 miles on it since. So just life, kids, college, graduations, and then this thing. Then the Bonanza happened.
Yeah.
So I really want to like go back and kind of almost go back through that truck a little bit, because there's things I want to do. So once you get to that level of doing it what I would consider really right, and that includes taking down to the chassis and really just going through it. And it's close because I did take it down to the chassis. I didn't take the cab off. So little things like that, once you do things that level and that right, it's a great feeling. And it's a great feeling of, I love tearing it down. I love looking at the bolts, breaking it all down, putting it all back together. That process, I love that.
Yep.
It's the time crunch that takes your toll on you. I personally lost 15 pounds, and I'm in Arizona, so it's hot here. I mean, I was pounding electrolyte drinks, just, not eating, you don't have the appetite, and you have the stress and then again, I think that I should make a shirt. I told my father-in-law and 10 other people I'm going to make a shirt that says it's always something customs, and there could be an F in there too. So it's always effing something customs. And what I mean by that is not necessarily your build. That's just life. So something's going to come up every day in life, whether that's the dog getting out, whether that's something at work, whatever life is, that's just life. And so we have great support systems. My wife is very understanding and patient, and she's known what she got into a long time ago. You as well. So
Mine let me live in Vegas for 4 months. So
yeah. So that's a big toll. And I think that's the part of it that is the juice worth the squeeze. I mean, I'm so happy I checked that box.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of stress. If I had a shop with 6 guys, and I'll say Arizona High Test, they helped me out a lot with this build. They have an amazing shop. So Jason Burland, AZ High Test, Arizona High Test, and then right next to him in their same shop is Andy, and Andy is Rick's Towing. So they have like a fab shop, and they're kind of one and the same. Anyway, they take on some crazy shit, and they're feeling the SEMA crunch as well. So they put together Tony's semi. I don't know if you saw it. It was in the Resto Mod, right? Unbelievable.
Yes.
And then the Skyfall C10, unbelievable. So if you have a shop and you are taking that on for customers, then I would say yes. But when you're dealing with it and you're trying to, it's a lot. It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of stress, and you're going to have those variables. You're going to have that. It's always something, and you have to be good. And me as a career firefighter, that's what we deal with is organized chaos. I had a lot of people tell me, like, you kind of thrive off this, right? And I think the older I get, I don't know that I thrive off of it, but I know I can handle it. And that's where you're like, okay, it wears on you. I don't know if you can just take a month off and recoup. The only thing about that is most guys don't really take a month off and recoup, because all the shit you and I have been dealing with for, let's call it, like you said, 19 weeks, 5 months. Well, all that stuff that got, not necessarily the lawn, but the things that get backed up. And then now you're like, okay, now I'm going to get caught up on life. And then about the time you get caught up on life, you're like, ooh, what should I build now? Or what should I do now? And then you reset the retard clock, and you're like, what the hell's my problem? So that's part of the journey, and that's the fun of it, I guess,
Like mine, like I was behind on editing photos for magazines or clients. I was behind on writing articles, and I detail on top of doing my photography stuff. Like I'm, today while recording this, I'm in the middle of detailing and coating a customer's vehicle. Well, I kept having people call me while I was in Vegas. Hey, can you get my car in? Can you get my truck in? Whatever. I'm like, well, I'll be back in a few weeks. So now I'm trying to play catch up. So I'm just as busy now as I was when I was out in Vegas. But I'm like, I took my computer. I'm like, oh, we get done in the evening. I'll sit down on the couch with my laptop. I can knock these photos out or whatever. Then I'm like, what do you mean we're going to lunch at 10:30 at night. Like, okay, well, I'm going to bed as soon as this is done. Like you don't have time for it.
Yeah, and you might think you're going to, and you just don't have, the older we get, you're just like, yeah, I don't want to do that. Maybe when I was younger, I could find another hour or 2 hours, but then you're like, well, am I really giving it my best? And I'm just wore out. So that's kind of part of it. And like you said, all that stuff, you've still got to make a living. I'm fortunate that my job, I had vacation, and then what we use is called trade time. So I can call, 3 guys and say, hey, I need you to work for me. I'll pay you back, or you owe me, and so on and so forth. But I think I did take probably the most time consecutively I've taken about in my 29-year career off, just making sure. And a lot of it comes down to having motivational, having my rendering, having my crew, having my dry erase board of everything that I wanted to get done, and just say, it doesn't matter, like the things that don't get done, meaning the lawn. Again, I was
hiring kids while I was gone to come mow my yard.
Yeah, I have to get this done. And there's certain things, and I had intended on continuing to do the pod throughout. I had intended to do, a little bit more media and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, there's only so much time. You still got to sleep sometime. And the bottom line is the finish line is the finish line. If you get to the finish line, then the other stuff won't be quite as critical. But if you do the other stuff and you make that determination to do the lawn, do whatever, and not get to the finish line, then you'll regret that. So that's where you have to make those decisions and find that balance with. There's times where I'm just blown away at how fast the clock moves. And I'm just like,
that's because we're getting old.
How the fuck does this move so fast? like it was just 10 a.m. and now it's 5, 6 p.m. I haven't eaten. I haven't done this. Slow down. And yeah, the older you get, the faster it goes. So it's a young man's game. I do like the process. I like the guys that are building. Obviously, we were surrounded by some huge builders that were at SEMA. I don't know how some of them do it. It just their staff, their billing. You hear about like the Ring brothers and how many hours go into these cars, and they're a 3-year build. And that's mastery at the highest level.
Well, I think, I was like, I'll go to SEMA, then Dino's, and then I'm shipping the vehicle home. Well, then the award come up at SEMA. Now I have an 8-week break, and then I'm right back on the West Coast. So I thought my finish line was leaving from Dino's. I thought I was going to ship it home at Dino's, and then which works because now gives my builder time to change those rear gears. There's a couple little things we want to tweak. Like after driving it 900 miles, we're like, all right, well, we don't like the way this works. Let's adjust this. Let's tweak that. But he was like, man, I'm parking in the garage. I ain't even touching it for a couple of weeks. He goes, I ain't even walking in my garage for a couple of weeks. I don't even want to see it. Mm-hmm. He's like, then we'll get everything together and have it dialed in perfectly for the Barrett-Jackson Cup. But, even when you think you're done, you're not done.
So you kept that color. Well, how'd you come up with Biscuit? The color of the Blazer kind of drove that?
Well, just like always have to put a name to a vehicle. Anybody listening to either one of these podcasts, they're going to be the same mindset. Like you have a vehicle, it's become standard to have a vehicle name. So I'm like, other names for tan, because I originally wanted a blue and white or red and white or something, but there's so many of those colors out there. So it's like when I come across this tan and white one, it's all original paint, it's lived its whole life in Vegas. So it's like, didn't have rot and stuff. And I'm like, all right, we'll stick with this. So I was like, Googling names for tan. I come across some European word. There was biscuit spelled completely different from our American biscuit and everything. And I'm like, wait a minute. It looks like a burnt biscuit because it's kind of crusty, kind of has the same colors, white in the middle, tan on top and bottom. I'm like, let's do biscuit. Then I was like, if I spell it different, it still fits the Blazer format, 7 letters or whatever it is. So my emblem can say biscuit and it looked just like the word Blazer. So when you walk up, you're like, oh, that says Blazer on the fender. And you're like, oh, wait a minute, it's biscuit.
Yeah.
So it just happened to stick and what I went with.
Yeah. And then the turquoise pops off that tan. So that was a cool little, you wouldn't know
kind
what
of earth tonies kind of, if you look at stuff in your area, like the Arizona type area, the Vegas area, you have a lot of those, tans, browns, all that stuff. But then like the turquoise kind of adds that. It's almost like that same color family, not so much like the Aztec stuff, but it just kind of, we know those colors work together. That was a big influence. I'd seen some of the stuff that Hills had done and thrown some teal in with tan. And I actually tell Jason Hill, he owes me the other half of the check for this build that Dino's not paying, because between Hills having such badass blazers and then Dino, it's kind of why I built that. But when we went with that teal, just kind of tied it in just enough pop, just enough contrast to make it work.
Yeah, I do think the Southwest, the Sedona, there's a lot of teal you're going to see in that. So that kind of brings that together. And again, you're looking for that pop. Yours has that pop, and I like the name, gives it an identity. Somebody knows what you're talking about. It gives it a soul. Not that they have to have that level of a soul, but you're trying to find that soul. And I always laugh because this thing's sitting in Vegas, 2-3 owners, wherever it started, and then to think like it's back in Vegas under the spotlight winning awards, and then it's going to be in the Barrett-Jackson Cup. And so you're like, dude, this thing 2 years ago was just forgotten about, sitting on the side of some guy's house.
So the guy that I bought it from, I think he said 8-9 years ago, he did like a first gen Porterbuilt setup on it. The start of the front,
so he had converted it already.
Well, the front was done. The rear still had 3-inch blocks in it. So when I bought it, the front was on the ground, the back was up. Like you'd open the tailgate and it'd be like chin level the way it was angled. But he'd started on like 8-9 years ago, and just kind of, they bolted everything on, got the front end set, and then just quit. And it sat there forever. And when we found it, Adam that built it for me, like he showed up at the guy's house. He's like, oh, I recognize you, whatever. He's like, oh yeah, you're friends with this guy. And he's like, oh yeah, they kind of had the same mutual, both being in Vegas, had the same, circle of, the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon kind of thing of friends. And then, that the guy bought it from, he told a couple of his buddies, like, oh yeah, I sold the Blazer. I'm like, oh, you finally let it go? He's like, it's been sitting there for 8-9 years, whatever. He's like, oh yeah, Adam Madrigal bought it for one of his customers. And they were like, Adam bought it? And they're like, yeah. It's like, it's going to be at SEMA. And he's like, there's no way it'll be there at SEMA this year. And they were like, I'm telling you, if Adam has his hands in it, it will be at SEMA this year. So I had people come up to me. They're like, yeah, it's set at my house for like 6 years or whatever. And I told them it was going to be there. We didn't, we knew it'd be done this quick, but, and then Adam had sent the guy a couple of pictures and it was done, and said, I don't know if you've seen this, but here's what we come up with. He goes, oh yeah, all of my friends have been sending it to me. So that was kind of a fun aspect about it.
Yeah. Now, has he seen it in person yet or no?
Yeah, I think he said he one day he showed up at SEMA and with one of his buddies and seen it. I've never met the guy, but it's just, it's local for him. So he'd go that afternoon, run by SEMA and go check it out. But yeah, the fact that he was going to convert it and do a bag Porterbuilt setup, like I said, it was a first gen Porterbuilt setup on it. So it was like nothing that we needed. So we took it off and just started all over with it.
Yeah, that's a cool story. The full rendition of 10, 12 years ago or whatever you said, like a
Oh, he drove it in 2011, 2012. He drove it for like a year every day.
With jacked up 3-inch blocks in the back?
Yes.
Because he didn't have any. Oh, stock. Okay.
Yeah. Then once he tore it down, he was like, man, he's like, I kind of want to do another build on this one. I don't even want to mess with it anymore. So he let it go. So we got a good deal because the whole front clip was off of it. It was in storage. Engine was already out of it. A lot of people's not going to buy something that's, you've got to make 2 and 3 trips to get it. They want something you can hop in and like tune up and go, but it was perfect. It's like, we didn't need the stuff. There was a couple parts we went to put it together, like the buckets that go in that front valence below the grill that the parking lights bolt in. I went to put the parking lights in. I'm like, these bolt holes don't line up. I was like, oh shit, we're missing a bucket. Like little stuff like that. We got to overnight those parts. We got to have this on tomorrow kind of thing. So
ironically, that's where it's nice where you have, not necessarily a junkyard, but a few other rides in your backyard. Cause I had to deal with the same exact thing. My buckets, being at the first shop, I have a list of stuff that's somewhere at the first shop at Matador's that I put together that I still don't have. And so I'm like, okay, I got to find this. I got to find this. You have this. I need this type thing. And I would just rob Peter to pay Paul. So yeah, kind of a crazy journey for both of us. So let's talk a little bit real quick and I'll take you out, but modified rides, how's that going? What's next? So my audience makes sure that they can check you out.
Well, I always joke because I'm just as busy as, probably you are, like, I never have time. It's like, well, I sat down on the couch, had 2 free minutes, and I'm like, I got to find something else to do. It's like, maybe I should do a podcast. And I just like joked about it. I'm one of those ones, if I joke about something, immediately okay, let's do research. What equipment do I need? What mic do I need? What lights do I need? Like what setup, who's the best to go through? And I like research. I'm like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. I've been doing automotive magazine photography since '01. I've shot 54 magazine covers, as y'all can see hanging behind me. I've worked with some top shops in the country. I've worked with a lot of the great editors, the Brian McCormicks, the Travis Nowaks, Mike Alexander. I've worked with all these guys. So it's like I had the network in the industry, and I don't deal with just trucks. I've done the import stuff. I've, got friends that drift. I've got the lifted stuff, and some of the sponsors and stuff I've dealt with over the year, trying to have them on. So it's like, I wanted to encompass kind of like the average showgoer that walks around the show. Okay. You see the vehicles, you see the vendor booth, you see the, the magazines in the stores, but how does all that, work together? How does it come together? Well, me interviewing some of these people on my end, it's like, I have a lot of photographers on. So you hear how their story made somebody's dream come true with the magazine, or, this company coming out with this part, how that creates someone like us to build what we do, how sponsorships and stuff work. So I just kind of like a insight to what we deal with in our world. But then there's not, there's no question list. I was like, oh, do you have a list? I'm like, no, we just talk and BS for a while. Like that's just how that works. Then there's people like you, like today, like I'm detailing. I always got an AirPod in. I'm listening through podcasts. Like yours is one of those ones that, I feel you're kind of the Joe Rogan of the truck podcast world, because you kind of were, I feel, one of the originators of the truck specific podcast.
Yeah.
So, I listen to stuff you do, other podcasts and stuff. It's like, all right, well, I can kind of bring this to light too. But like where you deal with, and in this podcast specifically, you deal with like the C10 world. So I'm like, all right, well, there's some C10 podcasts, there's some mini truck podcasts, there's lifted podcasts. Well, I wanted something that could encompass all of it. So I get to talk to people like you and, like the guys at AMD, and, I've had Dinos on. So there's a lot of people that deal with other stuff that I've been able to have on, like yourself.
Yeah, I love it. I love the variety and what you offer. And it's funny because there's a lot more pod in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of variety. People get a lot of different things that they can listen to. And it's funny, when I started C10, I thought, man, I look back and think, should I have been so niche? Even though I call it C10, it's anything, pretty much Chevy truck. But yeah, I mean, there's sometimes where I'm like, I should have called it classic truck pod, but C10 is where we're at. Who would have thought C10s? I've often shared this on my pod. People say, oh, when did you like C10s? And I'm like, yeah, I liked them forever. And they're like, oh, you liked them before they were cool. And I'm like, no, I think they've always been cool. They just might not have been
mainstream
as mainstream as they are now. And I would actually say the ride is probably even more so than I would have ever thought. I always tell people, hey, we're in a movement. Know that we're in a movement and enjoy the time when you're in said movement, versus looking back 10 years after the movement and saying, I wish I would have been more cognizant about me being in the movement. And we're in the movement now.
Now, when did you first start C10 Talk?
September 23rd of 2014.
Okay. So you're, like you said, starting your 12th year or whatever.
Yeah.
So someone that's been tied heavily to that C10 world, how have you seen this market change from what it was when you started to the boom it's having now? What is think the biggest change?
The biggest change is the people and the amount of shows and the branching out, positive or negative. So now we almost have too many shows, if there's such a thing, which, like, I laugh. I'm always like, I could retire and just, like, from the fire department, which I am going to do in like 3 years, but I could just go to show to show to show and like be like John Madden in a school bus or something and just go to all these shows and meet people and talk to people. So that's been really a cool thing. But when you get so far out, it's amazing for the people. I love that for the people. I love that for the community. it's gotten so big. So there's a positive and there's a negative. A good example is in the fire department. When I got hired in the fire department where I work now, we might have had 80 people. Now we have like 250. So I don't know every person and their kids and, so on and so forth. So we've gotten bigger. So when you get bigger, that span is out there and you don't know it, but it's pretty awesome. And you see so much going on. So I think what it was funny. When I went to Barrett, I bet first time I went to Barrett Jackson would have been 90. I'm going to say 98.
Oh, wow.
There might have been 4 to 5 C10s there. And I have an actual print film, like I would take a camera or whatever. And now it's crazy, right? There's so many.
It dominates it.
So it will evolve. We know that. We know for a fact that it will change. What it will change to, I don't know. I know that when I went 20, in 98, 30 or 20, let's call it 5 years ago, there was more muscle cars and there was more 32s and there was more Corvettes, right? And Chevelles and everything. So now when it, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, it'll be something else. And whether or not there'll still be C10s and Blazers and whatever people like that are in our demographic of age, but kids can't afford things that they can afford because we drive it up and we have driven it up, and the price of things costs money. And so when money goes up, then the Zuzu rodeos and hombres become, because it's what people can afford and modify and make cool. And you're like, oh, I never thought about that. That looks really cool.
You didn't say add the Aztec in there with all
no
that.
Aztecs. No, that's Breaking Bad. No Aztec. That's a Pontiac Aztec. Pontiac Aztec, but a Zuzu Hombre or an Isuzu, was it a Passport? No, Honda Passport was the same as the Isuzu. But so, I just think there's an evolution there. So there's a big change there. And another big change, if you think about it, we just came back, was the get down was, small. And it was in a parking lot at an appliance store, and now it's the world's biggest C10 show, the world's biggest Chevy truck show, the world's
biggest. Did he say how many he's had this year?
Don't know. I haven't. I always say 5,000 to 7,000, and I would say it was more this year. It was crazy this year.
Oh yeah, for sure. And the fact that the vendors are now across the aisle, they're on the other side because there's so many of them. Like it was insane. But
unreal.
Like you mentioned, like what I do with my podcast and stuff. That's the good thing about you having yours, me having mine. You can interview someone like Dino. I can interview Dino. Your interview is not going to be anywhere near the same as mine. You might have a couple crossover questions, but the fact that even though we do the same thing and that being the same genre, it's still two completely different outputs or whatever from it.
Yeah, I know. I think Jason Mode, you had him on. So the questions are going to be maybe a little different. The
Jason's
journey,
an hour from me.
Yeah, I love that dude. He's great, right? And I love what the guys have going on over there in North Carolina. Big Casey, obviously Lou, Bernie, the C10 Fall Revival. I love everything about not only the people, but that's what's cool is back in the day it was the forum, and then social media came, and I think the pod. Specifically, obviously, C10 was a gamble and just something I believed in and did it. And I think it united people and it brought people together, via social media as well. Let's not forget about social media. I would say I do tell people, try not to be bigger than the scene, because you do get people who I've seen come in and then leave, and they try to come in, and I think I'm an OG. I'll be here whether it's, good, bad, or ugly. And I think there's people that come in and they want to come in, they want to build this real quick, and then they leave. And you're like, okay. So you kind of have to look at all facets of it. And I befriend them. I like them. I might interview them. Do I wish people would stay and you haven't seen or heard from people in a long time? Yeah, maybe. There's been a lot of shops that popped up, parts availability. I know my Mopar buddies cry about it all the time. You guys can build a truck out of a catalog. That's not my fault. I'm sorry. But it's awesome. Got cool stuff. It's awesome that I can. And it's awesome that I can find parts and I don't have to spend as much time figuring out how to modify this or build this. So there's goods and bads, right, with anything, and I think our scene is always changing. We've got different people that pop up and influencers and people who are in it, who love it and care about it. And that's what I always say. I always say my number one thing is, are you giving or taking? If you're giving to the scene, then good. If you're taking, just tread lightly. Don't take too much, and if you take, fill it back up. It's like the penny tray. Take one, leave it. It's like, RIP the penny. But it's like it's like take it or leave it, right? So
who thought we'd ever say that?
Yeah, right. If you can take from the community, if you could take from the trucks and the things, give back. And if you're giving back, whatever form that might be, whether it's a Christmas donation or a volunteer at a truck show, or I don't know, just give back. And I think as long as we're doing that and people are getting along, because you've all heard stories about the crazy Corvette clubs and the Camaro clubs and how people can't get along and this, that, and guys are sensitive. And I've seen that too. People get sensitive and they get their feelings hurt in our community. And there's guys that I don't love that are in our community. I don't badmouth them. Well, one I usually will badmouth, but I won't do it on the air because I don't like the guy. But yeah, I think that I just look at the whole scene itself, and I think I would be remiss to not announce some of the true Mount Rushmore of our scene, which to me is John Oro, there's Dino, a guy that doesn't get probably as much credit that I think is always doing really good around here is Sam, good friend of mine. We put the reunion on together. Guys that I look at over across the country through the Texas guys, you've got Terry, you've got so many good people, whether they have a social media platform or a truck platform, the guys that are out in, North Carolina, that whole group I just mentioned, so many good people that are C10 club heads of state. Chase from Utah, my God, I would give him an award every year. Just such a great guy. And speaking of awards, I just gave Boris Marianovsky Award at Dino's because I had received the Ron Knowles Memorial Award. And for my audience, I do plan on having Ron's family on because I need to know more about Ron and the award. But when you win the award, you got to give the award. So I gave it to Boris, and then Boris will be challenged to find the next person. And I kind of picked Boris because I didn't want to specifically stay in the C10 community because I didn't want it to just get roped into the C10 community.
Yeah.
And Boris is an easy pick, but another guy who gives back, even though he takes money and he gives you parts, he still gives back. He's an honest resource. He's a guy that cares about the community. He's a guy that builds something and gets out there and shake hands. And so I just think that there's different formats of people that we have in our scene. And it's a great problem to have.
Well, I know when I first started in this whole custom vehicle world, started in high school, even though I was a Honda guy, all my friends were mini truckers. So I had the Tweed, I had the shaved handles. My Honda back then was built like a mini truck. So then when I started doing the magazine stuff, I started, first magazine I shot for was Street Trucks back in 01. Well, then it snowballed. Then I started doing a bunch of stuff for mini trucking. Well, it's like, I'm in these mini truck shows. So the bulk of my photography career has been in the mini truck world, but I've dabbled in the European stuff. I've dabbled in the lifted stuff. I've dabbled in the, the Subaru world, the Stance world, like that kind of stuff. But I've never messed with anything classic. I've never messed with anything, specific like the C10 world. Well, I'd been to some C10 heavy shows over the years, not specific C10 shows. But then when I went to Dino's last year and I saw how that C10 community was, like you can have the biggest shit box cruising down and you have people videoing and taking pictures, and right behind it can be a $500,000 C10 and it has the same presence as that shit box did. And it's like, that's cool. Cause in a lot of these other genres, if you've not got that cream of the crop build, people overlook it. But I think in the classic truck world, it don't matter if it's shiny, if it's rusty, if it's, sounds good, if it's all original. Like the community is so different. And I knew at Dino's show, I'm like, all right, this is something that I would love to be involved with more, which in turn led to me building the Blazer. And then the response that I got for putting my spin on something that it is still rusty, but it is shiny, but it has the interior. It's like, I try to check some of those boxes, but I feel the C10 world is a very tight knit, more, I'd say more adult world, even though we have some of us immature people that still want to, have fun when we're out. But I feel it's more of a, more of a scene that you can bring the family and stuff around. I love it.
Yeah, there's a guy that says the trucks are cool, but the people are cooler, and, it continues.
I've heard that
to
before.
Yeah, guy. But I think what's cool about that, the way you said it, is I laugh. You could be at your wife's office party or something, right? And there might maybe, I don't know, somewhere where the guy might have more money, or one side or the other, and you might be like, "Hey, how's it going, Todd?" or whatever, right? But then when you see Todd at the park and swap or the truck show, and you're like, that, whoever the guy might be, you might not be hanging out with him away from the trucks. But I wrote an article in the Builder's Guide a couple of years back, and it's like, you could have a guy who's got a $400,000 truck, and then 2 trucks over is a kid or a guy who's got, maybe a $20,000 truck, and they're both sitting there drinking a beer, having a time, talking about trucks and community and people. And I can't remember who said it. When people can't get along, put them in a couple trucks and see what happens. We're such a country divided. Like, it drives me crazy that we have a 51 to 49% vote, and it's like, but if we all got together at the truck rally or the truck show or the car show, and cars as well, people would get along a lot better. So whatever that is, it's a good thing. I think we need that in our community, and we need to see that people can get along and have common interest, whether it's for a Saturday afternoon or a 3-day show or Dino's or the C10 Fall Revival, whatever it might be. It's a good thing. We need that in our community. And I think you brought up family, and I think my kids have grown up in this. They know who Dino is, and Dino knows who they are. And I often express this to people that maybe they don't. I know John Orwell's kids. I've slept at his house. And just like you and Andy, you've slept at Andy's house, and you have a friend where this pod studio is an attic that I converted, that I call the Orwell apartment or the Stickle studio, because anybody can come through here, stay here. They can live here if they want. I've made it. There's a shower, there's a sink, there's everything up here, because we're going to be traveling through town. And whether that's on our way to a truck show, whether they need a place to rest, whatever it is, call a truck guy. And you see when people break down and they're like, I need help. And people are like, there. Well, that's what makes us humans and Americans and people that get along. And we're just lucky. And I think our community, I don't think it's just C10s. I guess I have more faith in, I don't know that the Brodozer dudes are doing it, but I mean, because some of those Brodozers,
I've built a couple of those.
Yeah, those dudes.
As you can see behind me.
Yeah, those actually look like really big 4x4s. Some of those Brodozers are out of control. But that's a good point. You get a little bit of everything. I think LST is a really good show to get a little bit of everything. High, low, jacked, left, right. You got it all. And so that's a great point of, you can get together with people, break bread, and talk trucks. And, Jose from Drops R Us, that dude will have, he might not even know you, man. He'll be cooking up shrimp and some scallops and some steaks and some strips, and come on into the camp, and you better come on in, have a beer, have a Bloody Mary, have a michelada, and have a good time. And if in life, if you can't have that, then you're missing out. And for our community, it's no wonder that people want to be part of that. And no wonder people want, again, another thing that same guy has always said is, the metal brings you together, the people keep you coming back. So it might be a common interest that you see the metal and you're like, oh, I like this truck. But then you become lifelong friends with some of these people. Some of my best friends I didn't know 20 years ago. And you're just like, yeah, that's awesome. I have friends, lifelong friends, that I've made through this community. And I think I think we're here for, I don't know, maybe 75 to 80 years. If you can have lifelong friends that you met through the metal, then that's a pretty cool thing. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, check out Modified Rods. I think I don't know how long we yapped for 2 hours or something, but I think we said an hour and then we just keep on going. But,
well,
so
if you figure if my podcast was an hour and your podcast was an hour, we have 2 hours. So we did an hour apiece.
Perfect.
No big deal.
Yeah. It's mathing. Okay. So after Barrett, you will be here. And then I assume, will you just plan on LST? Is that your next venture or do you have,
I'm not sure about LST, I'm going to have to be 2 weeks out there. Like I'm trying to figure that out. The weekend after LST, the wife's doing a 10K down at Disney, and I was voluntold to watch my nephew while they run that morning. And then I have to go walk Disney for the weekend. So, I'm not
for the cup. Do you have to be here the whole time or?
Well,
or
it's how expensive is it going to be for me to fly back home and fly back? So I'm still trying to figure all that out. They're supposed to have all the info by December 1st, and I'll figure it out from there. But I know I'm doing OBI, down in Orange Beach Invasion. I've already set up for that. They have that killer venue down there with all the lights and the Ferris wheel and stuff in the background. And, Mini Nats is always a big, people from all over the country come. It's 45 minutes from my house. So that's in April. Battle of Bama, that's always on my list. So
yeah, you've got a good problem as well. So obviously Craig's show now at Talladega, Mini Nats, Orange Beach Invasion. I mean, you've got a lot going on out there. And then
I'll be good guys. Columbus with AMD. There's a few that AMD's, already said for next year, hey, can you come with us? I'm like, yeah, just let me know when and where.
How far is it for you to get up to Columbus? How long does that take?
I want to say 7 or 8 hours.
Oh, that's not bad.
No, not too bad. Like LST is 16 for me.
Yeah, so it's almost exactly 16 for us too.
That's a hike for sure when you're trying to. Usually we split it up. Mobile's about halfway, so usually we split it up just to make that drive a little easier. Last year we was like, oh, we can push it, and then we realized that some of the cities before, LST were not the nicest, the safest to stay in, so we just decided to make the whole trip in one day.
Keep pushing. I was thinking. And for the audience, I may very well just sell this Blazer. That wasn't the intent, but I thought, oh, should I sell it this year or January 26th or push it to Barrett the next year? But I'd like to go to like Des Moines, maybe a Columbus, some of those bigger shows that you hear about that I've always been like, man, that would be a lot of fun. But again, it takes a lot of driving and time. And I think that'll be something someday, if not this time. Obviously, Triple Crown. I've been to Triple Crown. But for you, that's easy, right? I mean,
4.5 hours.
Yeah, easy money. So that'll be fun. So, all right, well, I'll take you off here. You guys check out his pod, Burrell Images, and then Modified Rides podcast. I'll tag it. I'll link it. We'll put this out to both of our worlds and then go from there.
And then those that are listening to it on mine, make sure you go check out Ronnie's C10 Talk. You've got several other podcasts that you're involved with.
They're kind of no. So the Bronco one went away to the Bronco guy. That's cool. That guy Cliff does a great job. The Dodge one went to the Dodge guy. Robert, he's up in Canada, does a great job. OBS Talk, what happened with that? I still have it. If anybody wants to take over the OBS podcast, hit me up. Ronnie at Truck Talk Media, RONNIE at Truck Talk Media. I'd love to have somebody take over OBS. I've died it out. I don't do anything with it. I had lost my social media page, and that took the winds out of my sail. It got hacked, and
so if somebody's trying to do the OBS talk, do they have to have a pretty face, or how does that work?
Well, you don't, and I don't, so it works out just fine. Yeah, yeah. Let's call it what it is. So yeah, no, you don't. You have to hit me up, and I'll sell you the pod. I'll sell you all the gear. I'm looking at some gear left over that I have, and we can come up again. I'd love to sell you the social media, but the main account, which was really humming along, and I've never understood why it got hacked or taken down. It was
seems to happen.
Yeah, you can't get a hold of Meta. You can't get a hold of Instagram, Facebook. It's kind of bullshit. But yeah. So then there was a little bit of a time where we tried to do Pro Touring Truck Talk. That one just died. There was a BMX one that was fun that I played around with that one. And I'm missing one more. So Bronco, Dodge. What am I missing there? Should be one more. OBS, C10. There should be one more. But yeah. Oh, Ford F100. Solomon has that one. So that one went over to Solomon, and they're cranking. We had a lot of pod that we put out. I think we almost got to 100 on F100. we got to, I don't even know, we got to OBS, and I get hit up all the time. Like, when are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? It's a lot of work. I was able to manage the sponsorships, and hey, if you come in at C10, I'll give you these 3 as a discount, or a discount the more you're in. And that was fun. It's just so much work. And so I just said, I'm going to take a break from so much work and turn that work into more wrenching, and yeah, it's working out. And C10, honestly, I don't know. I think I'll keep going a little bit. I don't know that it'll ever be always the 30 that I have going on, and depending on everything else that I got going on. So you know how it goes.
Well, like you said, for those listening on yours, at Burrell Images at mine, or at Modified Rides Podcast, and yours is.
So at C10 Talk, I'm also at C10.Nation, which is just a bigger C10 Nation page, social media.
I didn't realize that was yours.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's work there, putting all those posts together. And then my personal is at Damn Ron. And I think there's some underscores there. I think it might be at _damn_.
No one knows their personals. It's all the business ones that they.
Yeah. I mean, I just get on them. I don't really, I remember when I first came up with some of these, you're trying to find them and you're like, oh, well, I can't. No. So it's just at damn_Ron_. But yeah, you'll find me. And yeah, what else? Oh, the reunion. We do the reunion. We put that one together. Big Sky Classic is more of the building of these trucks. And I don't know why I have so many pages. You just get more pages. And then I'm also a part owner in a company called Doja Mat, which is cool. So that's a retro style floor mat that we've brought back, and that does really well. So if you got an old Ford, a Dodge, a Chev, we have some smaller ones. My son has some in his S10 Blazer. Doja Mat, DOJAMAT, Doja Mat. I think that the social media is we have the S in there, but yeah, there's a lot going on all the time. I actually got to ship some Doja Mat orders out today and get on that. So
nice.
No rest for the wretched, I guess.
Yeah, it was definitely cool to link up. Like I said, being the first time, I don't know if you've done one, but this is the first time I've done a dual podcast like this to reach 2 different audiences with the same story.
Yeah, we're crossing swords. So whether or not you had a little brother and cross swords,
wait a minute.
or wait for it, if you watch Star Wars, either way. Just saying, when you have a brother, you know what I'm talking about. You guys are like, let's go. Vroom, 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 vroom. Half of your audience will know what I'm talking about. So I'll take it out because I'm the one actually kind of quasi-hosting. Brandon, as always, thanks, brother.
All right, man.
Did you make it to the end? It was a long one, right? I mean, a couple SEMA builders get rambling. So appreciate it. Again, thanks again for tuning in. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Turkey Day. Support those that support you and your build. All these companies that are out there. They got great parts. We have such a great support system within the aftermarket. If you need anything from precision replacement parts, we do Vintage Air. I do Dakota Digital as well. So I'll extend that discount. Just hit me up, bigskyclassics.com, www, or just hit me up at Ronnie@trucktalkmedia.com. Either way, I'll try to save you some money. I'm not in it to make a bunch of money off of the community. I just like that I can support the community, give them a break on some parts, and, I'm supporting those that support us as well. So thanks again, guys. Have a great Thanksgiving. Stay safe out there. Thanks again for tuning in. Late.